Welcome to GraphiteHub's interview series, a series dedicated to all things graphite. Now, today's episode is slightly different to our usual format, where we would interview the CEO of a graphite company to talk specifically about their project. However, today I'm fortunate enough to be joined by Erik Olson, president of Venn Strategies. So, welcome, Erik.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me.
Great, that's great to have you here. So, Erik, in the last kind of day or so, there's been quite a significant development in the US graphite industry. And specifically, this is the trade case that was filed by the American active anode material producers. And so, for the viewers that aren't too familiar with this is a petition that seeks to impose tariffs of up to 920% on Chinese graphite imports. And this is an action that could have quite a significant impact on not only the graphite market, but also the broader EV market. So I guess Erik kind of set the stage for this. So I guess could we maybe just start off if you could provide a bit of an overview of your kind of involvement in this case?
Sure, I'm happy to. The firm I work with, Venn Strategies, that you mentioned, we have worked with the battery supply chain in North America for going on 4 years now. We stood up a group a while ago called the Battery Materials Technology Coalition, which is mine to cell pack development, and we advocate in front of the federal government and a little bit in front of the Canadians as well on policies, funding, different levers that can be pulled to ensure that we have a developed EV, developed a battery supply chain market here in North America, because there is obviously great interest in standing up that industry. Throughout that work, we started working with several graphite companies. And last year, about this time, four of those companies from the group and two others that were all in North America split off and formed this group, the North American Graphite Alliance. So that group was formed specifically to look at tariff exemptions that have been put in place under the 301 tariffs that were put in originally by President Trump and then continued under President Biden. And these exemptions for the tariffs had continued year after year. And this group of graphite companies said, we need this tariff in place. How do we get rid of this exemption? So we worked with them by talking to Congress, talking to the Biden administration, and we ended up commissioning a study with Oxford Economics that the point of the study was to demonstrate the validity and need for tariffs and trade tools to ensure an industry can stand up, and also argue for these exemptions to be taken away. Last May of 2024. President Biden and his agency team finished the 4-year review of the 301 tariffs. And as part of that review, they said, here's all the changes we're making, right? This is where we had EV tariffs go up to 100%. Other, tweaks happen. And as part of that, they removed the exemptions for graphite. So this group had already formed and started looking at what other levers do we have to pull. 25% tariff, great. Is it enough? No. And obviously that comes from the filing that was put in place yesterday by the group. And I know it's a little confusing. We have NAGA, the North American Graphite Alliance, but we also have AMP, which you mentioned before. So AMP is just the US companies because only the US companies can file. NAGA includes Canadian companies as well. So it's sort of a offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot. But yeah, this group formed and put this trade case together, working with a law firm, Buchanan, and we filed yesterday. We're really excited.
Yeah, no, it's definitely got quite a lot of media attention. I've yes, seen it, and investors are pretty happy that I guess graphite is starting to be in the limelight, you could say. So yeah, we look forward to kind of seeing the outcome of this. But maybe if we could start off, I guess graphite we've kind of seen lately. Um, there's been quite a few. I guess it's been used as kind of a trade weapon, you could say. So we're seeing, China imposing export restrictions, Trump talking about tariffs. So if this does escalate and we do see a tariff that, you know, the one we're hearing that could be proposed up to 920%, what kind of impact do you think this could have on the market?
Yeah. Now I'll preface by saying I'm a government relations guy, right? So like the market and how everything works on that front is not my specialty, so I won't
Yeah.
go too deep into that. But I think the fact that the Chinese have used graphite as a as leverage for them, that they can turn off the spigot, turn on the spigot, they can manipulate the price, just demonstrates why we need to stand up the industry in other places. I mean, of all the main minerals that go into an EV battery or any batteries, the Chinese control graphite far and away compared to lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese, etc. So it's such a critical mineral for other uses and for battery supply chain. And the fact that the Chinese just outright control it, we need to stand up the industry here. So yeah, 920% is aggressive. It is a calculation that the law firm makes. Like they look at not only price manipulation, but they look at a whole host of other subsidies that the Chinese government can put into the graphite industry, labor costs, energy, land, materials, whatever the case may be. And that's how they get that calculation. Do I think we're going to end up there? No. I think that's, it's aggressively high, and this will become a negotiation and a conversation with the Department of Commerce and then the International Trade Commission, and that process starts yesterday with the filing, and the first hurdle, not hurdle, but the first stage gate for this conversation will be January 8th, when we'll have our staff conversation, and we'll go from there and go through the process. But again, I just think, yeah, is it going to change the market? 100%. How it changes it, I think, is going to be part of how this negotiation goes. How does the new administration weigh in? How do the Chinese react? And how do the OEMs and the folks that are getting off takes and getting supply from China, how do they react? And I think given we're 24 hours in, it's a little early to kind of understand how that market dynamics will play out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good starting point, that's for sure. And so you kind of touched on battery manufacturers, and so are you kind of hearing anything so far on any kind of reaction to this announcement?
Honestly, I'm not. It's odd. I thought we'd see a lot more, immediate reaction. Obviously, some of the news reports have said, that they expect battery prices will go up. It's graphite's a funny part of the battery, right? It's like 50% of the weight or 30% of the weight, depending on the battery makeup, but 10% of the cost, right? And so if you have a tariff this high, you'd expect that the battery cost will go up, but how much will it go up given how much of the cost is actually graphite? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Again, I think it's just early. We fully expect LG and Ford and Tesla and SK and other companies to oppose this. They are the companies that asked for exemptions to the 301 tariffs. They didn't want to pay the 25% tariff. They're clearly not going to want to pay something north of 100%. So we
Yeah.
fully expect that they will oppose. This process, though, is pretty apolitical as far as things go. Now, everything has politics running through it, but it's a process that is driven by data, and we feel very confident that the data is on our side, that the price manipulation, the subsidization is there, and we can prove that. And that's what the process it will show and play out. And it's not something where a president can come in and say stop. So we're going to watch the process play, and we'll see what the OEMs and other companies say when they get in the middle of this a little bit more. But again, it's such early days, and then we're up against the holidays, and I think, people are maybe distracted. That was not part of the timing. This is just the timing that worked out. But I do think the timing, it doesn't allow people to react as fast or as quickly with everything else going on.
Yeah, no. And so I guess we kind of have seen in the last few years, I guess firstly the delay in the foreign entity of concern around graphite, and initially that was supposed to be implemented in 2025. However, it's since been pushed to 2027. So, and the main driver of this was just that there isn't a supply chain of graphite outside of China. So, how kind of soon do you see or kind of think that US companies would be able to meet the kind of supply needed for the US graphite market?
Sure. I mean, it's a chicken and egg problem a little bit here, right? Like these companies are ready to go. They're ready to grow, to build new facilities and to scale, and they can do it, relatively quickly and speaking in terms of building facilities and everything. And specifically with, artificial graphite, we have a plenty of pet coke supply in North America, in the US, that can go to feed the synthetic graphite industry, and we have really good mines that are operational in Canada already. So there's enough graphite there, but the financing has to follow. And if the OEMs aren't doing offtakes and continue to want to get their supply from China, Wall Street and others are going to look and say, well, maybe there isn't an opportunity here to invest as heavily. We want to have some industry, but not a huge amount of industry. And that the Chinese dumping and manipulating prices, hurts that opportunity to grow. So I think, the FEOC guidance was disappointing. We understand where the administration fell on that and why the car OEMs wanted that because they want cheap supply of graphite. Got it. But if we don't put protections in place for this industry, they won't grow in the way that they should. So I think they can serve the North American market. Absolutely. I think they need protections in place to be able to grow and to send very specific signals to both the finance community and to government that they are viable entities, and then the offtakes will follow.
Right, I see. And then, so how important do you think countries that have a free trade agreement with the US will play a role in the graphite supply chain?
Yeah, I think they have an important role to play. Our free trading partners are our allies, and despite not having a free trade agreement with Japan, we have the CMA in place, which is critical. And Japan obviously is a close ally. Korea is a close ally. I think we just need to be careful that they don't become the pass-through for Chinese graphite, which certainly
Yeah.
become a potential. So I think we're going to watch that carefully. This case can cover, it covers Chinese graphite. So if Chinese graphite's moving through another country, whether it be a free trading partner or someone else, it still needs to be tariffed. So we need to watch that carefully. But we want to have our free trade allies participate in this market. Whether hopefully it's setting up shop here and
Yeah.
making graphite here, but otherwise we just got to be careful and watch that the Chinese aren't using that as the pass-through entity to get product into the market.
Yeah. And I guess kind of US elections still kind of on everyone's mind, and we've got Inauguration Day coming up in January. And there kind of hasn't been too much talk yet from kind of what a Trump administration could look like. However, we did see a few days ago in the media, we kind of could see the potential of the redirection of EV subsidies towards kind of more critical mineral production and also tariffs. So I guess how do you see the likelihood of the implementation of such a proposal?
I mean, I think our proposal and this case fits firmly within President Trump's America First plan. I mean, this is all about standing up a U.S. industry, creating jobs, building factories, making things here, manufacturing here. So I think it fits very well into his view and his worldview. And I think that follows, if you look at his advisors, whether it's going to be USTR Greer, who I think, again, was the chief of staff during the first Trump administration, helped, usher the 301 tariffs through and understands the threat, the trade balance that needs to be struck between the U.S. and China. I think he'll be there. Peter Navarro, the president's trade advisor, he's going to like this. We haven't talked to these folks yet. There's one administration at a time, but we firmly think that this fits into their agenda as we move forward. What they do with the other pieces of IRA and stuff, I think is a question mark. But we do think, 45X and some of these tax credits for production stay in place because honestly, the places where factories are being set up are in Republican districts and states, and the president's going to want to see those job creations and the investment stay there. I think 30D, the individual passenger tax credit, that's a different question. That's something the Republicans have said they want to remove. We'll be watching that, obviously. I think 45X is much more important to get the supply chain set up.
Yeah. Okay. No, definitely sounds quite optimistic where the graphite market could be heading. However, we kind of have seen of late some quite significant kind of vulnerabilities within the ex-China graphite space. We saw I think Walkabout Resources recently went into administration, and also just last week, Sara Resources having to halt production at their Balama facility. And given Sara is the largest producer outside of China, this does pose quite a significant risk. So I guess where do you kind of see the industry kind of going from here?
Yeah, I mean, political unrest in Mozambique aside, right? You can't always control for that, and that's why I think you need stable markets and stable, mining and production in places like the U.S. and Canada. I mean, Northern Graphite, Nouveau Monde have great mines that, Northern Graphite's been mining for a while. I think, Graphite One, if they can get their mining up and running in Alaska, Westwater, and Alabama, we have graphite. We can pull that out of the ground and process it. And like we talked about with synthetic graphite or artificial graphite, we have the ability to do that. And you can see such a high interest in a lot of companies coming to the U.S. to set up their facilities here or in Canada. I think unrest and political unrest you can't control for. You can do things in stable countries like Canada and the U.S. and you can have a good supply there. And because you have the material in the ground, you can mine it out of the ground. Yeah, you can't control for everything, but I do think there's a really bright day ahead for graphite here in North America because of the amount of investment. And if we can do the proper trade protections to allow for fair trade and fair competition, I think we'll see things grow.
Yeah, no, it's no, I think the future's looking quite positive for the graphite industry. So yeah, and I think I said earlier, I think graphite for so long has kind of been swept under the rug, but it's finally getting the attention it deserves. So yeah, Eric, it's been great to have you on, and we kind of look forward to having you back on. Hopefully a successful outcome of this case, and we can chat about it in further. But yeah, thank you for joining me.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to share what's going on in DC. And like I said, it's early days, so yeah, hope to come back on again. And once we're, a couple of months into this, we'll have better reactions on what the Hill feels, what the incoming Trump administration feels on this, and we'll start to see some outcomes from the case at the Department of Commerce and at the International Trade Commission. So again, really appreciate you reaching out and getting me on early days with this to explain what's happening.
Great. No, thanks, Eric. Yeah, we look forward to that. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of Graphite Hub's interview series. We'll see you next time.